And what I think cancer did for me was it was like, holy shit, I could die and I've done nothing that I'm here to do. I've done nothing that I'm here to do on this earth. I thought really strongly for a long time that I was here to make a difference in this world. And I've done nothing but like be absorbed in my own shit for 36 years.
Before we get into it, I'd like to chat about today's sponsor, VitaDrop. I've been using the VitaDrop sleep product for about a year now, and it absolutely blew me away the first time I used it. I looked at my sleep tracker and it had a 30% increase in my REM sleep. I'm somebody who spends a lot of time trying to optimize my sleep, and I'd never seen anything like that have a significant impact as it did. I remember messaging the co-founder, podcast guest, as well as a good friend of mine, Charlie, about it the next day, completely blown away. And then I've also shared this information with a number of people who have come back extremely surprised and very impressed with how much better they've slept once they've taken that sleep product. So they have 4 different products for 4 different day-to-day experiences, one of them being sleep, the next one being hydration, the third one being focus, and the fourth one being a collagen supplement. You can grab them both in ready to drink and in sachets that you mix with water. So if you're interested, use the code TOT in the description below to get 25% off your next order. Hey, Erica, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We had a little bit of technical difficulties when we began, but it's part of the game and we prevail and we move forward.
Yes, we're here. Yeah. We're here.
We are here. Just a lesson to anyone trying to do anything with tech, just have a backup of everything at all times.
Including ring lights.
Including ring lights.
At night.
It's the things that you don't expect that are where the problems arise.
Yes, always. The things you don't expect. That's so funny.
I love it. Well, look, I'd love to get a bit of an elevator pitch of who you are, what you do, and how you're contributing to the world. What would that sound like?
Yeah, amazing. So I really feel like we are all here for a reason. I think we all have a purpose. I don't think that we're here to slave away in 9 to 5s. And I really feel like my mission and my purpose and why I'm here is to help figure out why they're here and what does that look like? What is their life purpose? What are they here for? And essentially, how can they monetize that and really earn a living, having impact in the world and doing something that they love at the same time while creating wealth through living your purpose.
Mm-hmm. So you work predominantly helping people as like a digital content coach. Is that kind of the space that you would say you're in if you were to really focus it down to something?
Yeah, I would say I'm a life purpose coach. And then also I would say a 6 and a 7-figure business mentor. So I'll help people to start their business and then scale it to 6 figures. Once they're there, I can help them scale it to 7 figures.
Mm-hmm. Have you got to the point where you can scale to 8 figures, or is that a whole new game? Not yet.
That's a whole new game. That's my goal, is to get to the 8.
Yeah.
In 1 year, I mean. Yeah.
In a year? Did you say?
In 1 year, yeah. I have to actually add that up. Yeah, 8 figures in 1 year. There we go.
Cool. How are you going to get there?
Honestly, keep doing more of what we're doing, just on a bigger scale.
Yeah. Does it mean changing the clients you get, or changing the way you run the business, or?
That's a good question. I think at this point, it's really just about reaching more people. Everything is just so solid and so set, and we have an amazing team. And now we're just ready to scale.
How do you reach more people?
I have a book actually coming out. So I think a book will be a great way to, get our work into the hands of different people. I have a publishing company as well, and they sort of help you with the launch and all that good stuff too.
What's the book called and what it's about?
The book, I'm not sure the title yet, but it's basically, essentially my first online course, my life purpose course. So helping people to go through almost a spiritual journey of doing a lot of healing and tapping into themselves and their divine gifts, and then sort of the second half of the course and the book really are around like some career coaching and taking you through a process of really getting clear on, what business can you start that is aligned with your life purpose.
And what would you say your divine gifts are?
My divine gifts, helping people to awaken to theirs is my divine gift.
And how do you go about doing that generally? Is there a step-by-step process that you undertake, or you just kind of feel it out?
Yeah, I've worked with thousands of people at this point to take them through this process, and it's really broken down now into about 10 steps, which the book and the course walk them through those 10 steps. And it has pretty much a 90 to 100% success rate. People come out really clear on what business they want to start.
Would you be open to talking about the steps in brief, in a brief element?
Yeah, for sure. I think essentially like the combination really, I always say, and you can look at this from a spiritual or a soulful perspective around life purpose, but it also really applies to just anyone who wants to be in a career that they really love. It's a combination of getting really clear on, one, what you're naturally good at. So what are your natural skills? What are your strengths? What are your divine gifts? And then combining that with what you really love. So what are you passionate about? What lights you up? What lights that fire under you? And then how can you combine those two to then create impact and create value in the world? So what you are naturally good at combined with what you really love to do. And then how can you combine those two things to create value and create impact in the world in some way is kind of like that perfect combination in the golden ticket.
Mm-hmm. Is that, did you take some inspiration from Ikigai by any chance?
Ikigai is in my course. Yes. Ikigai is one of that's in my program as well. That's sort of towards the beginning. Ikigai is a beautiful, it's beautiful little tool.
I've known about it for a long time, but I've never quite actually done anything worksheet related around mapping it out, but it's on the list of things. I think intuitively I get a feel for it, but maybe I have to take on the course because I'm going through a bit of a transition period. Although I do feel like the podcast might be that because I can talk to a brick wall.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so many things that you can do on the back end of a podcast as well. But yeah, I think Ikigai could be an awesome step for you for sure.
Well, what's our early years shape us as people, our childhood into how we were raised with our parents and kind of core memories and interactions with people maybe in school. So what's like a context of your early years that will allow us to understand you and then how you've got to the point you're at now?
Yeah, I definitely was not one of those that had a super easy childhood. My parents were divorced and there was, sort of a lot of chaos, I think, that was happening for most of my childhood. And I was always that person. I didn't want to cause any more trouble. I didn't want to be a burden. I wanted to just, not disappear, but kind of, so that I didn't have to cause any more stress in my family's life or not wanting to, upset my parents, not wanting to make anybody mad. So I was probably like your typical, just do what you're told, do everything to make everyone happy around you. People please, don't get in trouble, do what your teachers expect, do what your parents say. I just got really good at being like the perfect child. And, I think so many of us, what that leads us into is just really being susceptible to like being conditioned by society. And, I was that person, like I really just followed the path of like getting good grades and, moving in, going to college and then getting the degree and then getting the job. Like I kind of just really followed that path of what was expected of me. And, obviously that led to the whole rest of my story later down the road, but I was that pretty typical person.
By any chance, just on a side note, when you were younger, did you internalize like your divorce with your parents as like partially your fault? Was that something that happened?
No, I didn't internalize it. I didn't think that it was my fault. but I didn't have a great relationship with my dad. And I think that there was a lot of, there was a lot of fear, I think, growing up in my childhood, and a lot of wanting to be somewhere that I wasn't allowed to be, if that makes sense.
What do you mean? Sorry.
Like I was forced to go to my dad's house, and I didn't ever really want to be there. I always wanted to be at my mom's house. And I think there was a lot of sadness. There was a lot of missing both parents. There was a lot of feeling bad and guilty for the other parent, and worrying about both of the parents. I think there was a lot of sadness, a lot of guilt, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty. We moved a lot also. So I think it was just, I don't know, it felt very unstable and just not very safe. I don't really feel like I had a very safe childhood, if that makes sense.
Just on the relationship, say with your dad as an example, I know there's a lot of divorced and single parents raising people who end up going into business and become entrepreneurs. And, you know, it's as though there's like a bit of a fire that's developed inside people, because just for context, you know, my parents got divorced at 8, and, you know, I feel like we probably have the same fire, and I've met so many people who have that similar fire. But on a specific basis, I was listening to a podcast with a guy who I'm interviewing next week, and he spoke about being in a single parent home as a guy with just a mother. And from my experience with that as a man, that leads me to really be like over pushing. Like I need to push, and I need to do more. I need to provide. And it really kind of tips it very far in that direction. But out of curiosity, like, how does the poor relationship with your father affect you in business as a woman?
Oh my gosh. The wanting to be the overachiever, to win all the awards, to have all the achievements, and look at, I'm in Forbes, look at, I'm in New York Times, look at, I built $1 million business, look at, I'm living in $1 million home, look at, I have a second mountain house. Like, you know, it's like always trying to be the good person, the best child, you know, look at me, I'm not causing any problems. I mean, it's, you know, I think the shadow side is really wanting that validation, wanting that love. And for me, it's achievement is what got the, hey, I'm proud of you, and hey, well done. So the more that I can achieve, you know, essentially, like, is it the more love and the more validation from him do I get? I really think that's where so much of mine has stemmed from.
Do you have a relationship with your father now, or are they past? Like, what's the situation?
Yep, we do now, for sure. There was a lot of years where we did not. When I got pregnant and had my first child, then I think that's really what it was kind of like, you know what, we've had a lot of hard times, and yet we're all human, and he's my dad, and I love him, and I always will. And I want him to have a relationship with my kids. So I think our relationship right now is very much centered around my kids and my business. He's an entrepreneur also. So we have those two things in common, and we kind of just like, those are the only two things that we really talk about and connect on. And we see each other once or twice a year. So it's, you know, it's there, but
it could be a lot more, but it's there. It's a start for sure. I think just from speaking openly on, you know, you've spoken quite openly, so thank you for sharing about that stuff. But I wanted to mention that, like, with using my mum's and my relationship as an example, there was a time period from, say, 16-ish where I just was like, no, I'm done. Like, I'm done with you. I don't want to have time, or I don't have time or energy for this. And I cut her off. And then I got to 18 and I got my license, and I said to myself, I've only got one mum.
Yeah.
And I kind of accepted the fact that she wouldn't be the mum that I wanted or needed her to be, but I was going to accept that and just build a relationship with her again, just for who she is and what she provides to the relationship, which a lot of the times honestly isn't much. Like, it's one of those relationships where I leave drained.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I still put in the energy and effort because she's my mom. And I spoke to my therapist about this a while ago, and he mentioned, like, I was going to all of these things of like, she didn't do this, she didn't do that, blah, 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 blah. All the things you go through, and it's like, this is a problem because of this, and this is a problem because of this. And he turns around and goes to me, what are your options? I said, well, I could just sit her down and talk to her about it and deal with it all. And he's like, how is that going to actually go, do you think? And I'm like, probably terrible. He's like, so at some point you're going to have to accept that she's not the mother that you wanted her to be, and she probably never will be.
Yep.
And you're going to have to accept that and just accept her for the mother that she is. So I think I'm pulling two kind of like distinct time periods in my life, but the general gist of it at 18 was that, but then the actual solidification of what the concept was came probably in like my late 20s. And it gave it a lot more lightness. I'm just like, all right, well, it is what it is. Yeah, she's a pain in the ass, but like, she's my mom.
Sure. And like, honestly, what I realized when I became a parent is there is no manual, and nobody wakes up in the morning and says, gee, I'm really excited to F up my kid today. Like that's not how a parent, yeah, literally. So I think our parents do the best that they can with the tools they have, and their own wounding and their own trauma. And I think same as you, I accepted that about my dad and even about my mom as well. And it's like, that really just allows you to let the relationship be what it is and not have the expectations, because they're not capable of being what we need them to be. And that's based on a lot of how they grew up also, and the tools and resources that they have or lack thereof.
Yeah. And, I think there's a big generational shift in just putting in work to figure this shit out. It's more of, we're a lot more accepting with the fact that we are possibly a part of the problem as opposed to externalizing where the problems come from. And
totally. Yep, that's so true.
Yeah. So, it is what it is. And I don't think a lot of these people are too ingrained in their way of thinking to change. Yeah.
And that's a generational thing too, I think also, obviously, I mean, humans have evolved so much from a conscious level, really out of like survival mode. And I mean, just look at how much things have changed from in the 2 generations, we're just living in a whole different world than they ever did.
Have you seen very unrelated, but have you seen the TikToks coming out of the Vision Pro and people in New York just like...
Oh my God. Do you know what is so crazy? I've never once opened TikTok.
Really?
No.
Okay. Well, have you seen the videos? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh no, my kids probably have. I'll have to go on and take a look.
You might find it on Instagram, but it's just like the future is here, and it's just people wearing these big ass goggles walking down Manhattan, just like grabbing at the air and like doing random.
I can't.
It's hilarious, but I don't know. I'm already one of those people that just puts my phone away and just stares off into the distance at the best of times. Like the idea of entertainment just on a big screen with some goggles while you're like in public around thousands of people just doesn't necessarily sit well with me. So I think I'm going to get a cabin with no internet. I'll take my dog up to the Catskill Mountains and you'll never see me again.
I have that place in the mountains.
In the Catskills.
Not in the Catskills, in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, but
I might take you up on that if I can get away from the city once I've moved up there.
Yep. Let me know. It's yours.
I love that. I appreciate you. So back into the actual unrelated side note, but there's a really important point that I think that the listeners and some of the listeners will really resonate with, and I want to kind of dig into. And it's before we get into the business side and the 7-figure business, likely 8-figure in a year business. There's a lot of successes and wins that it seems like you've had in your life. We'll get to that, but being a perfect child, it has its positives, but it has its shadows. And how did you unwind the shadows over that time?
Oh, honestly, Unwinding, I mean, mine manifested into, through my 20s, like I partied all the time. I went out a lot. I traveled the world, of course. I was like so lost trying to find myself through, traveling, through drinking. I developed an eating disorder and was addicted to laxatives for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I did not love myself at all. I was so critical of myself. And I think I was really looking for someone to save me also. I was just like, who am I going to get married? Who am I going to marry? Where is my husband? I don't know, it was this really just toxic entire 20s. And I would say it really lasted until, one, I got pregnant, and then two, I was diagnosed with kidney cancer. And that was when I realized like how broken of a human I truly was and how toxic I was on the inside from trying to be so perfect and hold everything in. And through trying to be perfect, I was like an absolute fucking mess. And really the opposite of what I was wanting to be.
It's a lot. So with the kidney cancer stuff, just on a personal note, like one of my friends has had Hodgkin's lymphoma like 4 times now in the last few years. He just got out the other side of it again. But every time it happens to him, you can just tell it like defeats him a little bit more, and gets a little bit harder and harder to be like, oh fuck, here we go again. How was that battle with cancer, and like how did it change your perspective on your life and I guess your career as well?
So it happened when I was 36, and I had been married for about 5 years at the time. I had a toddler and I was still breastfeeding my second baby. And I was in a career that I just did not love and knew didn't belong for me. I was miserable in my marriage. I was living in a place that I didn't love, and I was just miserable. And I think for me, that diagnosis was like God or the universe or source or whoever's way of like saying, hey, I've hit you over the head with a 2x4 a million times already, and you're not paying attention. And the thing that I was scared of the most in my life was like getting cancer and dying. I had this fear of it. And
do you think you manifested in part?
I think partly I manifested it. But when you look up the spiritual meaning of cancer and what happens when you have disease in your kidneys, it's anger, it's resentment, it's self-hatred. It's toxicity, it's holding things in. And I was doing all of those things. I resented myself. I resented my husband. I resented my parents at the time. I just was so unhappy, and I was living life so out of alignment with who I was and what I was here for. And I was this toxic bubble of nothingness. And what I think cancer did for me was it was like, holy shit, I could die, and I've done nothing that I'm here to do. I've done nothing that I'm here to do on this earth. I thought really strongly for a long time that I was here to make a difference in this world, and I've done nothing but like be absorbed in my own shit for 36 years. And
was this when you were a recruiter?
I was a recruiter. Yep. And then I actually did get out of that back in 2010, and took a pretty big pay cut because I just got really burnt out in the corporate world, and I knew I wanted to make a difference in the world. So I got a master's degree in nonprofit management and then became the executive director of a not-for-profit organization. So I felt like I was making a difference, but I was still living somebody else's dream, right? Like I was still working for someone else. I was still building their dream. I was making their dream a reality. And I wasn't doing my own stuff here. And what that turning point of cancer did for me was, I kind of like made a promise to God and said, like, if you let me live and actually have a second chapter of my life, I promise I'm going to let everything that is no longer in alignment with who I am fall away. And I'm going to build it up with everything that is. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life here, however long it is, being of service to other people. And that's what I've done. That's what I've done so far. And what are we doing? We're almost 8 years out now.
So with that, how did you, talking specifically into the actual experience, like what was that experience like on a physical and mental basis? Like, was it a high risk cancer, or was it something that was like definitely treatable? Like, where was your head at with all of that?
It was definitely treatable. So we took it out through surgery. I did not have chemo and radiation. I felt personally like my body created that for a reason. And if it created it, unless I did something differently in my life, like it was going to recreate it again, right? Like you can take it away, but if I don't change myself, it's just going to come right back, is what I thought. And, you know, I've watched my uncle, we were diagnosed around the same time, and his has continued to come back. And it's like spread throughout his whole body. So I've watched, you know, myself take a spiritual and emotional and physical healing path, and I've gone this way and stayed in remission. I don't know what he's done, but he's taken more of like the chemo route, and his just keeps returning. So I think there was
cancer?
Always same cancer, same exact clear cell, renal cell carcinoma. Yeah. I think even in the same kidney.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's been a wild experience, for sure. So having that constant reminder of his coming back, and then his spreading to his lungs, and then his spreading to his adrenals and all the things, has been like, that can be me. And so it's been like, every time I watched his come back, you know, I almost go deeper into service and like releasing more in my life that I feel isn't aligned. And yeah, I don't know. That's kind of been a driving force also. But so physically, it wasn't that hard on me. Emotionally, it definitely was. I think no one wants to die when they still have little babies to raise also, you know? But yeah, it was probably the most just surrendered, I'd say, I've ever been in my entire life. And really just, yeah, not knowing, I suppose. You have to let go, like coming to the reality that you could or might die, I think is just, it's like, you're never the same after that.
What have you done differently now? Like, how is your life differently done? How is your life different? Like on a way that your routines, the food you eat, the people you let in your life, like what's changed?
Oh my gosh, everything. I would say, you know, one, I quit my job, and obviously I moved into my own business. So I am doing my own work here in the world now. And that's been, I think, a really big part of it. I felt like I had so much like creativity and so much to offer, and I was just holding it in. And I think that's been a real outlet of energy, and like releases a lot from my body, just doing my own work here. I got divorced. So I left that marriage that was just bringing me down constantly. And it was a very loveless marriage. And there was a lot of anger and resentment there. So really releasing that whole part of my life, and being single out in the world has been so helpful too. As far as like what I'm consuming in my body, I went almost 2 years after cancer, just putting living things in my body. So I didn't eat any meat. I didn't eat processed food. I didn't eat sugar, no dairy. Like everything that I put in me was alive. So vegetables.
So whole food, plant-based.
Yeah. Whole food, plant-based.
I'm reading the China study at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Like as we speak.
Yeah.
So and I'm a pretty heavy meat eater, and I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go.
I know. I mean, oh, I was too. I think I had meat like probably breakfast, at least lunch and dinner, maybe breakfast also. Yeah, I don't know. After cancer, I felt like when I would try and eat meat, it was like I was putting a dead carcass almost in my body. And it just felt like, how is this going to help my cells heal? It's dead, and it has a real dense, lower vibrational frequency. I do eat meat sometimes now. I'm not so hardcore, but for the first 2 years, I was pretty selective with what went into my body. For sure.
I think I said to myself after reading these, I've read this book. I'm reading this book, and I've kind of been in and out of, you know, the plant-based world a bit I went vegan for a month. I didn't like it. I wasn't the right vegan. Like it wasn't the good vegan. It was like unhealthy and confused vegan. And I hated it. And I really enjoy food, and I really do enjoy personally eating meat. But one of my best friends went from like bodybuilder, hectic meat eater to vegan. And he's like, I didn't do this because of the ethical reasons. I did this because I feel great. And he was the fitness guy when we were younger. So whenever I have these questions, and I come back to it once every 6 months or so, and I talk to him about it. But I've come to the mental conclusion that if at any point I am sick, like if there's any diagnosis of anything untoward whatsoever that ever happens, straight to plant-based. But the next step is, how do I just do it now? I got to mentally process getting to that point so I don't have any of those issues. But we're not quite there yet. We're not quite there yet.
Clearly.
Love a Coke Zero.
Oh my God. There's some stats around Coke in your body. Same. I used to be obsessed. Diet Coke was my thing.
It slaps.
Moderation. So my thing now is like 80% good, 20% whatever. Maybe you start there.
Yeah, I think that's where we're getting to.
Yeah.
I love that. So basically so your diet, you went straight to plant-based. What happened on the like releasing of trauma and the unwinding of all of these like, toxicities held in your body through your life? Like, what did you do?
Oh, what didn't I do? Honestly, what didn't I do? I got really into, I think the first thing was do you know who Louise Hay is? Have you ever heard of her work? She has this book called You Can Heal Your Life. And it's really
I know that book. We'll put it in the show notes.
Put it in the show. Yeah. So that for me was where I started. And I only found her because she had cancer and she healed herself naturally. And so I was like, okay, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And so I read her book and it sent me on this path of like, wow, in order to heal, I'm really going to have to learn to fall in love with myself down to like a cellular level. And so there was, a lot of therapy and a lot of getting to know myself that I hadn't done before, and a lot of, talking to myself and watching my thoughts about myself and watching what I'm putting in my body, instead of like laxatives to like make myself skinny. Why don't we nourish myself by putting beautiful, like nourishing foods into my body? So it was a whole mindset shift of really going from criticizing myself constantly to actually, I'm pretty cool. And I really do like love myself and I want to be here for a really long time. And, that was a good few years there. And then of course I did things like breath work and Kundalini yoga and went on the retreats and plant medicine and all of that too. But really what the shift was for me was just learning to love myself instead of hate myself every day.
Yeah. It's a big shift, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think you go?
I was just going to say what it does too. It is a big shift. And then because what happens is like all that energy and all those thoughts that you're consuming all day, like negative thoughts, like, why didn't I do this right? Or God, if I could only do this, or like, why did I eat that? Or God, get off the couch and exercise. It's like, you're constantly going through life, like beating yourself up and stressful and anxious and depressed and whatever. All of a sudden that's just gone. And you're so freed up to really focus on, God, what am I here for? What can I create in the world? And that shift for me, I mean, like everything in my life changed. Relationships, finances, career, my business blew up. The way my kids are so much happier. I mean, when you make that shift, your whole world changes.
What do you think was, do you know what is the Pareto principle, the 80-20 principle?
Oh, the 80-20. Yeah, I think so.
So basically the idea is that 80% of your outcomes come from 20% of your effort, like 80% of your challenges come from 20% of people. It's just kind of this loose relationship that seems to be out in the world. So what would you say the most, and it basically at a loose end, it's it's a concept that ties into making decisions that have outsized impact, like not one input to one output. It's like one input to three outputs to reach some momentum. So on the falling in love with yourself basis, what was your most impactful thing that you did? That was the one thing, because I've got one that I'll say afterwards. But what was the most impactful thing that you did? I
think, and this it's actually pretty easy to do, and I still do this. Look at when you're making a decision in your life, or when you're looking at something in your life, whatever it is. If it's not a fuck yes, like I want this here, or I want to do this, or I want to be this, or be with this person, or have this in my life, or have this in my house, or be doing this, like then it's a hell no. And
what? Can you not call me out like that?
So there you go.
Okay. So how did that, so just doing that allowed you to fall in love with yourself more? How did that happen?
Yeah, because I really learned I didn't know even what I wanted in my life. Like I said, I was so conditioned by society and being the good girl and being the people pleaser and making everyone else happy that I didn't even know what the hell I wanted in my life. And I was just reacting and so passive and taking things as they come and, oh yeah, sure, I'll do that. And yes, I'll do that. And like, I didn't even know what I liked or what I wanted in my life. And so by really like using that as a barometer, okay, we live in this house. Is this a fuck yes? Not really. Then it's a hell no. Where do I need to move to? Living in this town, is it a fuck yes? No, absolutely not. Where do I really want to live? You know, I'm in this marriage. Is it a fuck yes? No, it's absolutely not. So it's got to go. Right. So like what that barometer did was I saw everything in my life that I was tolerating. And then I saw the things that I wanted in my life and how far away I was from them. Yeah, it was actually pretty insightful.
Yeah.
But then, 5 years later, there's not really anything in my life, except for my ex-husband. That's like, but he's,
Is that the same one from the stars and there wasn't another one in between?
No, there was not another one. No,
okay.
we co-parent together.
Gotcha.
Obviously if I had the opportunity to not have him in my life, I would not have him in my life, but everything else is a serious.
Shots fired.
Hopefully he's not listening. He's from Australia, so.
Oh God, I wonder if I know him. Oh shit. Yeah, we won't dig into that. We'll just let that one lie.
Yeah, we'll let that one lie. Literally 5 years later, 6 years later, everything in my life is a fuck yes. And I think, just, I don't know. That was sort of the parameter that I used and just has been so helpful for me in so many ways.
I'm across that idea, and it's definitely something that I know I should be doing, but I find myself not doing it because I've got this fear. I think it's happening more and more as I get out of the small town that I was in, where opportunities were scarce and you had to really scrap and like make the best out of what you've got to get anywhere, to places like Melbourne and New York, where it's like there is so much opportunity, there is so much abundance that the right thing to do now, and I'm saying this to myself, but whether I actually do it, the right thing to do now is to wait for the fuck yeses. And it's okay. Like the bottleneck is now not the opportunities, the bottleneck is time and energy and focus. So yeah, I'm slowing down a lot more on the things I say yes to.
Yeah. To
hopefully let in the things that are fuck yeses that then have crazy outcomes. Because I was going on momentum and a sense of duty in the business that I was running for the last 10 years, and it was working fine and I was making some progress. It was never crazy outcomes. Like I was doing reasonably well, but nothing like spectacular. But it was fine until the last 12 months where I, instead of stopping, when doors close, instead of stopping and going, you know what, this doesn't feel like a fuck yes, And I'm okay with for the moment, possibly proving the people that have like shut the doors on me right.
Yeah.
And just chilling and riding off into the sunset for a little bit. Instead, I said, I got to prove them wrong. I'll show them. I'm going to jump into new projects with maybe not the right people. And I lost $300,000 in 12 months. I'm like,
and you knew, right?
I knew deep down. I knew deep down. I had to fucking prove them wrong though.
Totally. That's
proved them right.
Oh God, we learned the hard way, don't we?
Yeah. So now I'm like, all right, well, maybe I just got to take a beat.
You knew. That's the thing. We always know, but it's whenever we try and cross that shit goes really wrong.
Yeah, deep down I knew. Yeah. Anywho, and the other thing was that I've gone through a similar journey of just trying to find that inner light. And it's been there, but it's just been covered under a lot of shit. And therapy has been super helpful. There's 3 things that helped. It was therapy. It was meditation, like daily 10 to 20 minutes a day, which I've done for most days for the last 8 years of my life. And the third one was waking up in the morning, having a shower, staring at myself in the mirror, completely naked, looking at myself in the eyes, and for 50 times a day, just saying, Adam, I love you. As ridiculous as that sounds.
Do you know where that came from? Louise Hay. Started. That is her number one teaching. That's crazy.
Wow. So I came across it from the Mindset Mentor. During COVID, I was just knocking out his daily podcast. And it's just 10-minute snippets of just feel good shit. And he said that. And I was like, all right.
Yep.
And as wild as this was, I started doing it. And I remember when I first started doing it, I couldn't look myself in the eye. And there were a couple of times where I cried. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I'm not
that's crazy. That's the Louise Hay. She literally is the OG of, I think she calls it mirror work. She calls it mirror work. That's wild.
Yeah, it works.
It does. It's really powerful. I actually did that for a really long time as well. I had forgotten about that, but yeah.
I wanted to quickly touch on again, because I know that some listeners will have this as a challenge in their life, the eating disorder side of things. Do you know much about parts work or internal family systems?
Yes. I've been doing IFS for the last 2 years. It is game changing.
Nice. I just started. So I'm 3 sessions in with a therapist in Australia. Really good therapist that I'm I've been doing therapy for a long time, and I feel like I've just intellectualized and danced around any issues, because I'm a pretty switched on guy. I'm quick when I need to be. And I've just managed to just keep the conversations intellectual and gone around in circles for years. It's
and gotten nowhere.
We've made a couple of progresses, but I've gotten away with a lot. Anyway, you can't get away with it in parts work because you go straight into your body. It's damn it. So I think it's what I need. And I found a young therapist who just is, going through the journey himself, and he's maybe a few years ahead of me on the IFS work. And then he's a therapist as well. And he has a bit of spirituality tied in. So it's I think we're a good fit. Yeah. And we're 3 sessions in, and I'm all right, this is hard work. But it's hard work. But I'm so excited because it's actually, you know what? I'm I can't the moment I go into my body, I can't intellectualize my way out of trouble. It's you just have to deal with it. You have to just feel it. But I wonder what was the part of you that was coming out in the eating disorder time period? What was it actually needing?
Oh, that's a good question. I think obviously love and attention is really what that part of me was wanting. And, I think also, the way that I grew up, there was a lot around looks and a lot around, I think I haven't really talked about this very much, but a lot from my dad around women, and women should be skinny and women should be beautiful because if they're ugly and fat, they're worthless. And like, there was a lot of that, I think, coming through for me was, geez, I better not put on weight because then, no one's going to love me, and then I'm not going to get married, and then I'm not going to have babies, and my dad's really not going to love me. So I think it was really wanting to, again, look the perfect way to get the love and attention that I thought, I needed from outside sources.
Could that have been resolved with just if you'd managed to get through the self-love work earlier? Do you think that like that would have just gone away?
Hands down, I would have never gone down that path for sure. For sure.
So if there's, I feel like a lot of the times, generally for men, it's like more of a body dysmorphia gym thing. But for women, like I have a number of friends that either have eating disorders or are going through it or have gone through it. Like, what could you say to them if they're listening? That might be like one little like seed planting to just like move them in the right direction here.
Well, I think anytime someone said self-love to me, I rolled my eyes, like literally like to the back of my head. I was like, oh, please, but ultimately I think just pick up Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life. And honestly, that will make you not want to treat your body any other way than with the utmost respect and adoration.
Okay. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, write it down.
Yeah, I'll get that afterwards. How did your need for validation stem into your like romantic relationships?
So I'm really good at building business. Like I can earn money all day long. I can generate millions of dollars, but I still to this day like struggle in relationships. Like a part of me thinks, and I've said this to people before, that maybe I'm just not even here for relationships. Like maybe I'm here just to have this business and do this work in the world and help other people live really beautiful, impactful lives and like heal this part of humanity that I'm meant to heal and whatever. And maybe I'm just not meant for relationships because I think I still really struggle in that space. That one's still because of the deep-seated need to, or desire, I guess. Maybe it is a need, I'm not sure. Like to make other people happy.
At your expense?
At my expense, yeah.
Is there a way to do that without being at your expense?
I'm sure there is.
You're like, I just don't know.
The only way that I figured that out is to be alone. Okay. So we're still a work in progress there.
Aren't we all? Don't worry, aren't we all? It's so funny. It's so funny how like romantic relationships just like you think you've done all this work and then
right away
you're like, what the fuck? I thought this was good.
It's so true. I'm literally like after just a couple, I don't know. I'm so hypersensitive that literally one thing starts going one way and I'm like, I'm out. Just give me more. Just get me out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? I don't have an answer for that either.
Well, I think relationships are like, I always say too, building a business is like 1 year of building your own business is like 10 years of therapy. And I literally think that 1 year of being in a relationship where you're actually like you're conscious and you're committed to doing the work and showing up as a good partner, I also think is like 10 years of fucking therapy. Yeah. It just brings up all of your shit. And it's like, everything is just mirrored back at you, just right away, all the time. Trigger. So you're just, unless you're just shoving it all away, you're going to do the work. It's confronting.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's, the things that trigger you are generally a mirror to the things that you don't like in yourself.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious when I think about it for my past relationships. It's like,
you were doomed.
Oh, no. We're not doomed. We'll do all right. We'll get there. I'm not too concerned.
Yeah, you're probably in your 20s, right? You got time.
I'm 31.
31. Yeah, you got plenty of time. I got some years on you, Adam.
That's all good. Experience. Yeah. I want. I love this. It's been a great conversation. But let's move it into a different direction. I want to talk about kind of like the business side of things for a little bit. So, you went from corporate recruitment to coaching. So you went from your your safe 9-to-5 paycheck to paycheck job into the wonderful wild world of client-based services, working for yourself. And what were the key strategies that allowed you to successfully transition from those two? Like, did you have a big bunch of savings to begin with? Were you set up where you're like, I've got 2-3 years where I don't have to earn a cent and then I'm going to go all in on this, and then what else happened? How did you find clients? Like, talk about what actually happened and the frame that you were in to make it work.
Yeah. Well, I was still married at the time and I was working also full time. I had a toddler, I had a baby that I was still breastfeeding, and I was just diagnosed with cancer when I started my business. So there was a lot on my plate. Yeah, it was a lot.
Here's a good time.
so fun. Yeah, it was a lot. But like I was the kind of person where I knew that 1, I wanted to leave my marriage. 2, I needed to leave my job. And 3, I could never support my kids as a single mom on the salary that I was earning. So I knew that like my business was going to be the vehicle for the life that I wanted to create.
Oh, so you didn't have a choice.
I didn't have a choice.
Oh, God. Okay.
I burned all bridges behind. But I did start my business and I worked it for a year while I was still working my full-time job.
I think that's a key thing. Like,
it is. Like I see people try and quit their job and start their business, and it's like they're operating from such a place of panic, a place of fear, a place of scarcity, a place of lack, a place of like, oh my God, I need to sign clients now. And it doesn't work. It flops. It fails.
Yeah, it's like people can just sense the desperation.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's legit for sure.
Dating.
It brings up all your shit. Just like dating. Yeah. Just
like dating. Okay. So the strategies were you didn't have any savings in place. So basically you worked your job and you like moonlit the business.
Yep. Yeah.
Part-time.
Yep.
Did you sleep?
I did. No, not really.
Yeah.
Not really. Actually the schedule that I did, this is helpful for people because I think people think like, so I did Tuesdays and Thursday nights. Well, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights really after my kids went to bed. So like from 8:30 to 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. And then of course my kids were still waking up in the night. So I was like still really tired. And then I did Sundays as well. So like from 8 a.m. till 12 or 1. And that was enough to just get things rolling to where I had some income coming in. And once I got to the point where I had about half of my income that I was earning replaced through my business, that's when I quit my job. And then all of a sudden I had all this time and my income in my business then quickly went up to match the income in my job. And then of course like doubled and then tripled and whatever. It's gone on to be this whole thing. But that was how I did it, was I needed to at least be earning half of, and then I think I needed to have about 20,000 in savings. And that was when I knew I could quit. And so it took me about a year to get there. And then, I handed my resignation in and now I'm like psychologically unemployable.
Yeah, I feel that. I think I've ruined myself.
Yeah.
Because for your understanding, I went to uni, I studied civil engineering and commerce. But in the process of that, I began to run like parties and events and DJ a little bit. And then I built this, and then from about 23 to COVID, which would have been maybe like 7 years, I worked in events. I ran nightclub events. I ran mini festivals. I like did a bunch of really cool, fun stuff and made was making six figures pretty comfortably most years after uni, and then just chilling. and now it's not like that at all. Like and then COVID hit, it was a complete mess. And then I've like not got my footing since then. And then I've like pushed myself in directions, not for the right reasons. And then it's blown up in my face. And I've burned through a big chunk of like what I built up over the 10 years prior.
Yeah. So
it hasn't been a straight direction up, but, yeah, that's kind of the context of where I'm at. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I probably could. There's a scenario where like I should get a job right now.
No, don't do it.
But the idea of it makes me physically repulsed.
Well,
so instead I go into media.
Where you're going to earn millions.
I mean, right now I'm just, it's this podcast. The podcast is the start of the media business.
Totally. And, you could think like, honestly, what you could do, I think the fastest path to cash when you're starting your business is to do some kind of coaching. Like, what can you teach people? Right. So like, there's so many people out there who want to start a podcast. Could you start teaching people how to start a podcast? Like you're sitting on a gold mine right now.
It's funny you say that because I'd had an interview with, a woman from Melbourne named Mel Yu a couple of days ago, and she was talking about creating like a course or something like that. And this idea has begun to float in my head. And I think to answer your question, I need to get my personal website set up first. And that's step one. And then step two is build out like a course on how the A to Z's of starting a podcast and just sell it for $10. And then the next step would be doing like one-on-one coaching on how to do a podcast. Because I know how to do the basics now. I know how to do it cheaply. I know how to like use tech to like enable like minimal effort for like good outcomes. So anyway, that's just something idea that's been floating around. How long it takes for me to actually do that work is another thing. But I think that's the direction I'm going to start taking it when I get to a desperate point.
Totally. So then what I always have my clients do is I flip it. So instead of starting with the low ticket offer, I have my clients start with the high ticket offer. So like, let's say you sign 3 people and you're going to help them get their first 10 episodes of their podcast out there, and you're going to coach them through the whole process. Like you don't need to create any content or anything for that. It's literally like, let's have 6 sessions every 2 weeks booked, 6 sessions booked every 2 weeks or whatever. And I'm going to charge you $5,000. By the end of it, you'll have your podcast up and running, and it'll be an awesome marketing tool for you. Then you need 3 clients to earn 15 grand, as opposed to like, how many would you need to buy that $10 offer to earn 15 grand? Like a shitload.
My thing that the first thing that I think to myself is, how the fuck would I find these clients?
That is so not hard. That is so easy. Like you probably already have them listening to your podcast right now.
Maybe. I don't know. I actually don't know. I haven't got that far yet. The logic was, and feel free to roast it, was by doing the PDF like course, it allows me to solidify my thinking. It's less as a point of selling. It's more of a ability to think about what I actually do know and succinctly put it into document. And then from there, it's an upsell opportunity as opposed to, so that's my logic. I'm not doing it just because I'm like scared. It's more like, how do I understand what I've actually got going on in my head really, really well? And I'm probably going to have to do that like process of documentation anyway.
Yeah.
For those clients, those higher end clients. Anyway, that was just my logic and thought process to begin with. But I think, it's really, this idea is really starting to stem into something more. So it's going to be something I work on over the next month or so.
Yeah.
You've spoken about your vulnerabilities a lot in the content and the way you approach and podcasts, and you've been very open with us today. And out of curiosity, how is that vulnerability with like your struggles and your challenges like helped with the success of your business and helped find clients?
Oh, I think that is one of the things that we hear. So I have an enrollment team and they take all the, consultations and whatnot. And one thing that everybody says is that they, have seen a million ads out there, or they're hit with, content all over, like they're so overwhelmed by content addressing business coaches and this, that, and the other thing. But they clicked on my ad, or they clicked on my post, or they listened to podcasts that I was on because something about my energy resonated with them. And I think the one thing I've always done in business is just felt like the more that I can be myself out there in the real way that I can be, the more I'm going to find my people and draw them into me. And so just little things like all my content is filmed up in the mountains or out with my horses on just my iPhone, because that's how I'm living my life and that's who I am. And my clients always say to me, I worked with you and I chose you because you're real and you're not, you put everything out there and you're not some fake salesy polished person. You're like a real human being going through real shit, and you've created what you created in the world. And, if you can do it, then so can I. So I think it's just, I don't think we can go wrong by being more of ourselves in the world.
Mm, for sure. I mean, everyone else is taken, right? That's that idea.
Yeah.
The just in my head, trying to flesh this out as like potentially a one-to-one, but I feel like people will find value in this. Like, how did you break past the idea of potentially being a fraud, like not being actually valuable and not having any knowledge?
Well, when I very first started my business, obviously it was not a company like this. I mean, my first goal in my business was to earn $2,500 a month, right? Like I was not earning $200,000 a month like my company is now.
Is that where it is now? Wow, brilliant. Nice.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah. A little different.
Yeah.
What I started as was I was a heart-centered career coach, right? I came out of corporate recruitment, I was like, I don't know what the hell I want to be, but I'm helping all these people to move around jobs. And I went and got a career coaching certification. And so I started my business as a heart-centered career coach. And, my first goal was to earn $2,500 a month in my business. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So what I did was I actually took 9 clients through a 3-month coaching series for free, just so I could figure it out. And so that I could get comfortable creating results and creating transformation before I took anyone's money. So I had 9 clients, and by, the first 2, I really fucked up. They got nothing from it whatsoever. They were like, this is pointless. They dropped out halfway through.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's hilarious. Did they do it with love though, or were they like, fuck you?
No, it was like, yeah, I don't think I want to do this anymore, Erica, but thanks for the offer. Yeah. I totally screwed that up, which is another reason, actually, I'll come back to that in a second. But yeah, so then anyway, by like client 3 and 4, I started getting some results. And then by 8 or 9, they had clarity. And, my 10th client then was a paid client. So I think I really wanted to make sure that I could get results before I started charging for my services. And that's actually one of the reasons why I suggested earlier to start with the one-on-one coaching, because before you solidify a process in a PDF or in a course, you can take a couple people through the process one-on-one, make sure that it's actually going to get results and it's going to work before you cement it into a course that you've put all this time and effort into creating. So that's kind of why I do it the other way around.
Do you think, given that I'm doing a podcast myself, I know it's getting results because we've done, I don't know if you saw the guest list, but the guest list is getting ridiculous now.
Insane.
And
I know, you're amazing.
And it's like, it's just beginning. I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing, but externally people are like, I did a podcast with a friend of mine. She's like a really big content creator in Melbourne, and we did it in her studio with her producer there. And he said to me, he's like, I couldn't fault your interviewing. Like, what do you mean? I've done this for 6 months. Like, there's no way you can't fault the interviewing. There's something wrong.
With you.
With you. So I don't know. I don't know where this goes, but it's funny because I was saying to my friend yesterday, I've got this like wish list of just like some of the biggest people in the world that I look up to and I love. And for the first time in my life, I look at that wish list and I don't think that'll never happen. I go, it's just a matter of time, which is really, really weird. Like, it's not a feeling that I'm used to. With events and festivals, I never felt this way. I felt like I didn't feel like I belonged. I never felt like I was any good at the job, and it was always a shit fight. But this, I'm like, all right, let's do it.
So then actually that's really cool, Adam, because you found that vein. Remember what we talked about at the very beginning of the episode, the combination of what you're naturally good at with what you really love, and how you combine those two things to create value in the world. That's like literally exactly what you've just done. And that's the vein. That's where like the millions of dollars are made. That's where the idea actually works and it feels effortless. Like you've just tapped exactly into that.
It's funny. Media is a really scalable product as well, which is great. Events, not so much.
Yeah.
Events are a fucking grind.
The ones that I've spoken at and knowing the people trying to put them together on the back end, it's pretty intense. I've watched a lot fall apart and like hundreds of thousands of dollars be lost.
However, I just feel like the skill set that I've developed on that event world will come very in handy for this world at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
At some point. I don't know how, but I just know something's there. So anyway, I'm just talking about myself unnecessarily. However, let's go back to this. You spoke briefly on your certification. Was that a valuable thing to get to like make people feel safer to working with you? Like, do you think you didn't need it?
Oh, I felt like I actually did need that so that I knew what I was doing. It gave me the framework to know how to work with clients and the process to take them through. And, I've got a bunch of certifications past that. And the clients that I work with, some of them have certifications, some of them don't. But the irony is, out of the hundreds of interviews I've done, the thousands of clients I've worked with, the hundreds of stages I've spoken on, I've never had anyone once ask me what my qualification is or my certification is, like in order to give me the job or the gig or the whatever. Like not once. People really don't care about that. They just want to know that you can help them to create what they want to create in their lives. And if they trust you, then you're good.
Do you think that certification was important before when you first got going and didn't have any runs on the board though?
It was for me because I really didn't know what I was doing. Let's say though, for example, let's say for example, let's say you're going to put this podcast course out there. Like you're not going to need to go get certified in whatever to be able to do that. You already know this left, right, center, back, front. You can just put that together. Whereas someone like me, I didn't know how to do that. I had to learn that skill before I could package it and sell it.
There's one thing I don't know and that we haven't figured out yet is how to make the podcast clips go viral. That's where I'm stuck. And I don't know if this is maybe just a time thing because of the way the way podcasts work or whether we're doing something wrong. I don't know. So,
that I can't help you with.
If you know anyone who can, I'll do their course.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, anywho, so you one of your key driving messages is that you can market without relying on social media too heavily. What are you talking about? Run me through this.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's one of the things I think people are drawn to my company is because we help you to build your business without social media. So essentially there's what I call two different forms of marketing. There's external marketing and there's internal marketing. So internal marketing is ways to provide value, provide content, to keep in touch with your already existing clients or customers or whatever. So like having your email list, that's internal marketing, right? Like you've somehow already gotten them there and now you're providing value to them. Social media, internal marketing, because like they're your followers. And unless you're doing something actively to build your following, you're just posting on social media essentially to the same people over and over and over again, right? Internal marketing. So I bring external marketing to the plate. And really what that does is it gets you in front of new eyes, new potential clients, new potential leads, a new audience every single month, bringing them into your email list and your social media if you want to be on social media, so that when you are showing up there every month, you have a new audience that you're actually trying to make offers and sell to. So we do things like workshops, speaking engagements, getting people on podcasts, kind of like this, getting published in the media, and really just it's like a visibility strategy essentially. And what that does is, one, it gets you out in front of audiences that you never would get in front of on social media. And it takes you out of the competition of the hamster wheel of social media, right? Like on Instagram, people are just trying to like post content and get clients. And like 99% of the people that come to me, that's all they've been doing for years. And they've gotten nowhere in their business and they're ready to quit because they're so defeated. As soon as we flip what they're doing and just say, just stop on social media unless you want to be there, put these external marketing components in your business, they start signing clients left, right, and center. And I think there's a place where social media does have its presence. Like when you're wanting to scale to 30, 40, 50, $100,000 months, you'll need to have some social media there. But at that point, you'll have someone that you can hire and start running that component for you.
Sure. Okay. So what would be the 2 or 3 most impactful external marketing tools that you've experienced from your successes?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is, and that people feel really good about using when they're just starting out in business, is what I call a signature workshop. And essentially that's like, let's create a 90-minute to a 2-hour class. It can be done virtually or in person. And you're usually holding it in conjunction with other places. So like, let's say my life purpose workshop was called How to Discover Your Life Purpose. And I would hold it places like metaphysical stores, yoga studios. I held it just a lot of different places. They would fill that for me. They'd put the bums on seats. I would deliver my class. And then I would say, if you want to take this deeper, you can come in and work with me in my 3-month coaching program and I'll get you there. And that just, I can get my clients to where their workshops convert at like 80%. So like, let's say they have 10 people come, I can get my clients to where 8 out of those 10 people will sign up and become a client. So that's the main strategy that I teach.
So basically you'll get people to a coaching kind of session and then you upsell into the one-on-one coaching.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That seems like a strategy that I've done a Tony Robbins thing, and I noticed when he did his, it was not the Date with Destiny one, you Unleash the Power Within.
Yeah.
We did it online, and I just remember like I was like hyped up. And then he, at this moment of like, it's done like clockwork. And at the moment of like peak energetic change, he's like, plants the seed of the next stage, plants the seed of the upsell. And I'm like, clever, because I know it, like I know what he's doing.
Yeah. But
the vast majority of people there probably didn't.
Yeah.
And then like, I don't know if it's like in my head, I think, is that a bad thing? Is that like, I don't know, I can't quite get my head around how I'd feel about doing that as opposed to kind of having that moment to really lock in a lesson versus like lock in an upsell.
For sure. I take that approach. I think that I've been to UPW and I think he's way salesy. So, and this is like, I think too, what differentiates,
he makes a boatload of money. So, I mean, who
I am
who are we to judge?
But like, yeah, but I think the way that I look at it is in this 90-minute to 2-hour workshop, what we do is we really create insights and we create breakthroughs for these people. And then it's not like we're trying to sell you into this bigger program. It's like, if you want support and deeper support, to help make this change and integrate this into your life, here's what we can offer you. Here's how you can work deeper with us. So it's like a little bit of a different shift.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's a bit less like, it's a bit more like we'll let this be, and if you want it, take it.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Is there a duty though, if you back your product so much, that to push as hard as you can on sales though? If you think this will change somebody's life.
Well, so that's just it. That's where I feel like we do have a responsibility. When we know we have something, we have a responsibility. I think it's our responsibility to put it out there, what we have, how we can support you. However, it's also our responsibility to be completely unattached to that outcome. So like I really say, it's my clients, I'll answer all the questions that they have so that they can make the best decision, whether that's working with me or not. And then, great if they do and amazing if they don't, like whatever. I'm just completely unattached to that. But I do put myself out there enough to where they can get clear on whether it's right for them or not.
Cool. Okay. And just before we move on to like maybe a bit of a rapid fire, just to get a feel for some little bits and pieces, what I wanted to really go back because you glossed over it. That moment where you were having your job and the family and then building the business, could you give us like a bit of a quick synopsis of what your calendar looked like? Like, what was your days? When did you wake up? Like, how did you time block? And were you effective in the hours that you worked? I sound like there was no room to like be distracted.
No, there was not.
So what did it look like? What was the week?
Yeah. Well, remember, mind you, that was when I was also recovering from cancer and going through that whole experience as well. So, and I had a baby and I was breastfeeding and I had a toddler. So it was like,
so maybe drop out the cancer side of things. Cause I think that you've definitely taken on a lot of things, but if you were to do that all over again, minus the cancer right now, you've got a baby, you've got a job, you've got a partner and you're trying to build a business. How would you structure your week?
I would probably get up at about 5 a.m. and
You've lost me.
and just hit the ground running and never stop. No.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people that are really big into like morning routines and all of that. I kind of flip things around. So personally, I think getting up early though you can get so much done. Either get your meditation, get your own alone time, get your workout in, do whatever. I flip that around and I actually get up at 5 a.m. I love to make my coffee and then I just like get through so much work right away.
Yeah.
And then I like to have my time. So then I like to do my meditation and then I like to do my workout and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're working full time, then, you go to work and you come home. So it was
5 till 7 to wake up, coffee.
Yep. I would say 5. At that time I was doing like the workout and the meditation. I get up at 5. I would do workout, I would do meditation, I would make my coffee, and then I would get my kids up, get them both ready for like daycare or the nanny or whatever.
Like 6:37?
Yeah, probably that was 6:37.
Yeah.
Then 7 to 8 was like the shit show chaos of, temper tantrums and trying to feed whatever, cleaning up the floor.
Yeah.
8:30, kids with nanny or daycare or whatever. And then I would go to work.
Yeah.
I would come home at 4:30, pick them up, get the kiddos
9 to 4:30
working.
Was your job happy with you doing like leaving a little bit early? Or was that like a fight?
Yes, they were fine with that. So it was kind of like a remote. I didn't have to be there. So I could work from home also. So I would leave and then, later on I could do emails or whatever. So it wasn't like I had to be there, which was nice. There was a little bit of flexibility. And then,
so basically if anyone's listening to this and trying to turn their life around, basically step 1 is try and find some flexibility in the job that you already have. Like get as much space and freedom as you can within the framework of that job, allowing you to do so.
Yeah, I would say
probably one of the core things. And then get up early.
Sorry, get up early. At least let you have your job.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you've got to the end of work.
Yep. So then the end of work, then I would pick up the kids, or I think we had a nanny at the time. So I would go home, do the whole dinner thing, spend time with the kids, get the kids ready for bed. Then they would go to bed about 8 o'clock. That usually took about half an hour. Then 8:30, I was working my business until I got too tired that I couldn't.
What time would that usually be?
Like 10:30, 11, I'd say.
And you do that 3 days a week?
Yeah, generally. Probably 3 days a week. Sometimes more. If I wasn't too tired, sometimes more. But I definitely was trying to heal my body at the same time. So I prioritized sleep.
But 11 till 5 isn't much.
No, and then I had a baby, so she was still waking up twice in the night. So I'd be up at
you're not prioritizing sleep by any means.
No. But I wasn't doing every night. I wasn't doing every night.
Yeah. And then was there time for your partner? Or was that just like in the dinner time period, or you just weren't?
We were already like pretty much over at that point. I knew as soon as I was diagnosed that I needed to get out of that marriage. So I stopped actually prioritizing that relationship at that time too.
So that it was just on its way. You knew that was done, and it was just a matter of when.
Out.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So if you were in a happy, healthy relationship, do you think that you could have made that same time commitment. Probably you could, that it sounds like the 4:30 till 8 is like reasonable. Like you could cook dinner together, you could have dinner, and then it's like, hey, look, honey, I've got this that I really want to focus on. Like if I'm in a relationship like that, I'd be like, yeah, look, I get it. Let's try and like maybe book in some time one point in the week and do something together, but go for your life. Like that's how I would think about it. If it's a healthy relationship, that is.
Yeah, completely. If you have a partner you actually want to spend time with.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So, and then your weekends?
The weekends, Saturday, I usually had just a total like family day. I just wanted to be with my kids on Saturdays. My ex played rugby, so he was gone a lot on the weekends. So I would have my kids on Saturdays, and then Sunday morning, he would take the kids from like 8 in the morning until about noon. I would go to a coffee shop and work on my business. And then Sunday afternoons, again, family and kid time.
And what were you working on your business? Like what was the main thing that you were doing to drive? So it was like finding clients and then doing the deliverables?
Yeah, so I was looking for places that I could speak. I was looking at places I could hold my workshop. I was writing articles. I was getting published in the media. I was getting on podcasts at that time, things like creating my website and doing what I could, asking for referrals, doing reach outs. Hey, here's my new business. Do you know of anyone who's stuck in the wrong career? It was a lot of that at the very beginning.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Nice. That's a really solid kind of framework. So basically it's like, and what were your workouts? Your workouts were at home?
My workouts were at home. Yeah. Okay. Once I had kids, I loved to go to the gym, but once I had kids, that was just not possible. So yeah, I do my workouts from home.
Yeah. So the reality of the situation is if you want to, and you only did this for a year.
I did that yes, correct. Only a year. Okay. Yeah. Yep.
So basically if anyone's listening to this and they're like working a full-time job and they want to start a business, a lot of people don't have kids, so they have that less thing to worry about, but they might have a relationship that they need to nurture, whatever. The steps, if I'm recapping this, it's get up as early as you can without really ruining enough sleep. So ideally 7 hours, 6 hours if you have to. But probably any less than that, you're going to burn out pretty quickly. I don't think you'll get to a year of productive work.
I would say give yourself 7.5 hours of sleep if you can.
7.5 hours sleep. Get up, get moving, get into your work as quickly as you can. Yeah. Life chaos, job chaos. Try and negotiate some flexibility with your employer. Maybe tell them why, maybe give them a bullshit reason. I don't know. It's up to you to figure out. Lie through your teeth.
Don't tell the truth.
And then accept your evenings are no longer going to be Netflix. Yes. They're not friends. You're not hanging out with your friends. You are grinding. You're getting it done. Did you drink a lot of coffee? Like, were you just wired as fuck?
No, because I didn't. I drank a coffee in the 1 or 2 cups of coffee in the morning and then one again in the middle of the day.
So yes.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I drink twice that now. So.
Oh God. Okay. Yes. I go through phases of just like cutting coffee completely.
Yeah, it's so much healthier for you to cut coffee completely. I think when you're on a mission, though, honestly, you're so naturally fueled. And I took the mindset, too, that this is temporary. I can do anything for a year. I can do this for a year. Like a plane uses 90% of its fuel during takeoff. I just needed to get this thing off. I
love that.
Yeah. So just get it going, do the damn thing. And then, you're going to be cruising here in a minute. I
love that. I've never heard a plane uses 90% of its fuel during takeoff. Brilliant. Love that. All right, cool. Let's just I'm conscious of time. Let's go through some final questions and then let's wrap it up. This is probably not a rapid fire question, but I really love asking this one. What is the kindest thing anyone has ever done for you?
Oh my gosh, the kindest thing anyone has ever done for me. I think the thing that honestly I love the most is whenever I drive up to the drive-through at Starbucks and they tell me the person in front of me has just paid for my coffee. That just does it for me every time.
Yeah, paying it forward. It's super sweet.
Yeah.
I've got a story that I love to share because I think it's really powerful. Around this whole piece. So I went to Coachella with my friend in 2022. We left the festival super dusty, like low serotonin, not having a great time. We rock up to the gas station. American gas stations are really strange. You have to pay early. It's like this whole weird thing. I don't know, like, why are you prepaying and then you get your money? It's like, why are you making this harder than it needs to be? Anyway, we get our gas / petrol and we go in, we go to pay. My friend's paying. His card doesn't work. Oh. He's getting really frustrated because, again, serotonin's low. We're like dusty. We're tired. It's like, oh, fuck me. So we're sitting here just like struggling, probably looking homeless at this point. This guy behind us just goes, hey, I'll pay. Just taps his card. And I look at him and I go, oh, thank you. I actually have money. Can I give you cash? Like, I'll give you the cash. Like, we're fine. And he goes, no, it's okay. Just pay it forward. And then from that moment on, I've tried to every single week, and I probably will do in perpetuity, to just do one little gesture of paying it forward. Whether it's like, I don't know, a friend of mine has, like last week it was, I made a friend, there was at an event and she's like, oh, I'll give you some money. Can you get me a drink? I'm like, no, it's all good. I'll get it. So I got her the drink and she's like, oh, thank you. I can give you money. And I was like, no, just pay it forward. Like that was one example. The week before, I just like paid a coffee forward. You know, some other times if I'm going out for lunch with somebody, I'll just shout them and it's like, no, don't pay me back. Just pay it forward. Lots of little things. And I love it. And I don't know when I'm going to stop doing it. And it all came from some random ass dude. Like,
clicking his card.
So the $20 that I saved has cost me thousands.
If you want to look at it that way.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't look at it that way. Yeah.
No,
anyways,
so good. You feel so good just doing that for people and not expecting anything in return. It's just fun. The best feeling. I know. I love it too.
And it's funny that it's like also starting to frame my way of thinking about how I navigate the world a little bit. Now, I haven't thought about this before, but now that I'm talking about it, a lot of my life is turning out less and less to I'm going to do this and hope for Y. It's to I'm just going to do this. And it's like getting into more and bigger and more serious things that it's like, all right, fuck it. I'll just do it and just let it lie how it lies. Whatever. Maybe this is fine to come from a place of like abundance. I think that's what it is. Coming from a place of abundance more than scarcity.
Yeah.
Which is a slow process. It's developing.
Very much so. Very slow process.
That's all right. It's better than no process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What advice would you give yourself from 10 years ago if you could give yourself one piece of advice?
What advice would I give myself 10 years ago if I could give myself one piece of advice? Listen to what your body is telling you. Listen to what your body is telling you. Listen to what your intuition is telling you. If you're anxious, depressed, there's a reason. Figure out what in your life needs to change instead of trying to just do everything you can to not feel those feelings.
Can you stop calling me out, please? I would really appreciate
Well, you are kind of 10 years younger. You're a little tiny.
Yeah, it's me. It's me.
Yes.
And if you could only recommend one book to somebody that would have the most impact in their life, what would it be?
Oh, just one, or can I have two?
Okay,
just
fine.
one.
You can have two.
Okay, fine. I can have two. One, The Alchemist. Have you read The Alchemist?
Yeah, I like The Alchemist. Have you read Siddhartha?
Yeah, but it's been a long time.
Oh, you should reread that. That book is crazy.
Okay, yeah.
Just read it recently.
And then the second one is Untethered Soul. Have you read Untethered Soul?
Is that a book for like marketed to women by any chance? I don't know why.
No, one of the coaches that I worked with was a dude, and he was one that recommended that book to me. It's not to women.
Oh, I'm thinking of something else.
I think it's written by a guy too.
I'll put in the show notes.
Yeah,
we haven't really done show notes very well, but I'm going to harass my producer to show notes. What do you like about Untethered Soul?
It kind
I'm
of
thinking of Untamed.
Oh yeah, that's Glennon Doyle.
Yeah.
No, that is definitely to women.
Is there value in a man reading that book, or will he just get like, he'd be like, this is wild. Like, is it worth me reading that book?
No.
Dare I ask why?
I don't, that's a good question. That book was really what gave me the courage to leave my marriage. So like, I don't know. I was coming from such a different energy that I wouldn't be able to see it for any other value as far as like it helped me get a divorce.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and read it again from a different perspective to see what other lessons. I'm sure there's other lessons in the book. She's a brilliant writer.
I might have to read it just to see what like the warning flags.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh, your future wife will love that.
Oh, I don't know if she's about to divorce me, maybe.
You'll know when it's
coming. Oh no. That's funny. Anyway, Untethered Soul.
Untethered Soul, it allow like you look at problems in a whole different way. Like you actually read that book and you're like, damn, I really have no problems. It's fascinating. It kind of just changes how you view the world and yourself in the world. It's really cool. And it's a good, quick, easy read that, it will change things for you.
Amazing. And what is one change that somebody could make in their life today to help begin to create a life similar to yours?
Aw. I think figure out what you love to do. Like just figure out what your passions are, figure out what lights you up, and then figure out a way to monetize it.
What if it's like the most fringe thing with nobody else interested in it in the world? Like I can't think of it, but I'm sure there's some weird ass things out there.
Oh, I heard of something God, what did I hear the other day? Oh shoot. I wish I heard this one person has made like $10 million doing something so stupid. And I can't remember what there's like personal huggers out there. There's like, that's weird. It's cute, but it's weird. Do you know what's funny? Actually, she'll probably kill me if she hears me talking about her on here, but we have inside one of my programs right now. She's a personal listener, not a therapist, not a coach. People pay her thousands of dollars to literally just sit there and listen.
I'd be so good at that.
I know, right?
Wow.
It's brilliant. She loves to listen. It
just doesn't say anything?
She doesn't say anything. No advice, no therapy. She just listens and people pay her thousands of dollars a month.
She's like a priest in confession.
Yeah, she's a personal listener.
She's a personal priest. Jesus.
Priests judge you though. She doesn't judge.
Not in the little box. You're not meant to. The good ones don't.
You're not supposed to judge the
good ones don't. Surely, that's the whole like the whole brand. God still loves you, and we are the version of God on earth. I don't know, walking the earth right now. Anyway, we're really divulging here. And then, so look, is there anything you're excited about at the moment that you want to let listeners in on, like any new projects?
I have a book coming out later this year. It'll be out this fall. I'm sure if you just Google search Erica Carrico, that'll come up. Otherwise, we always have live events that we're doing, programs that you can join. There's all kinds of goodness. And
just for half of our listeners, because half of our listeners are Australian, fall means autumn.
Yes, thank you. Autumn.
Autumn, yes. And where can people find you if they're interested in exploring further?
So ericacarrico.com. On Instagram quite a lot. Erica Lynn Carrico. We're on YouTube. Those are probably the 3 places that we hang out the most.
Cool. And then just a nice little easy question just to round it all up. What is the meaning of life?
What is the meaning of life? Oh my gosh. Well, I think that we are all here to evolve and to grow and to change. And I think that we're here to make a difference in the world in some way, shape, or form. And ultimately, I think enjoy the journey.
Love it. Thank you for your time, Erica. I really appreciate you and the energy you brought. It's been wonderful.
Thanks for having me, Adam. So good.
Speak to you soon.
Yeah.